All right. Hi, everybody. This is Shari Alexander, and my guest today I am so happy to announce is Mr. Jim Cathcart himself. Hi, Jim.
Hey, how are you, Shari?
Good. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having a chat with me.
I'm excited about this.
So, for those of you who perhaps aren't familiar with Jim and his work, Jim is a Hall of Fame speaker. It's a really big deal within the National Speakers Association. And he is also the author of, oh my goodness, this hurts to read, 16 books. 16 books. I'm still working on one.
Only two of them became bestsellers. The rest of them...
I'm sorry, only two of them.
Yeah, only two of them.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll give you a call to help me with my first one. How about that? And in December of 2012, Jim was inducted into the Sales and Marketing Hall of Fame in London and Paris. So he really knows his stuff when it comes to sales and marketing. And he is also the original author of Relationship Selling, which has actually one of the reasons why we're talking today. I'm really interested to learn about relationship selling and your take on it. And in fact, if everybody is interested in it, by the end of our talk today, there is a relationship selling app that you can download for your phone. And you can learn more about Jim at relationshipselling.com. How was that for an intro, Jim?
Hey, that's lovely.
All right.
Because it sends everybody right where I want them to go to meet with me.
I love it. I love it. And you have some great videos up there. I mean, seeing you in action is a joy to watch. You are one of those king professionals in our industry. So it's great to talk with you today.
Thank you. You're very generous.
So tell me a bit about the evolution of relationship selling. Where did that come from?
You know, you and I both have roots in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And I was there in Tulsa when I first established my business as a professional speaker and author. And I was teaching a seminar on sales techniques. And I just called it professional selling. And then in 1979, I was in California for a seminar, and I met a college professor, Tony Alessandra.
Yep.
Dr. Anthony Joseph Alessandra. And he was at the University of San Diego and taught marketing. And he was at this conference. It was for Century 21 Real Estate. He was teaching a class on personality types, and I was teaching professional selling. And the two of us were side by side in the expo area, you know, where you had your products displayed.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a book, and I had my recorded materials. And he said, so tell me, he said, you do this full time? I said, yeah, this is my profession. Yeah, I'm a speaker and a trainer. And he said, well, how's that pay? And I told him, and he said, oh my gosh. He said, that's way better than I get as a college professor. I said, yeah, but you're a college professor. You got all that stability and all that potential. He said, no. Tell me again how much you make. How does this work? And so I told him more about speaking. He said, well, I'll tell you what. If you'll teach me about the speaking profession, I'll teach you what I know about marketing, and the two of us can do pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, done. And we became... First off, we hit it off really well. We became best friends very quickly. And we started sharing leads, and I lived in Oklahoma at the time, and he lived in La Jolla, San Diego. And our business started growing because we were helping each other, and it sort of exponentially exploded our capabilities. And then one day he said, well, why don't you move to California? And I said, well, why don't you move to Oklahoma? He said, come on. I said, all right, I'll move to California. And I did, and we put everything together, and for 5 years we were full-on business partners. And so relationship selling was what came from that. It grew out of the evolution of all of our collaboration. And then Tony decided he wanted to specialize in personality types. And he chose the slogan, the Platinum Rule, as his trademark. And I said, well, I want to run with relationship selling as the broader topic and not focus on personality types any longer. And he said, okay. And so I went that direction. And then I wrote the book, Relationship Selling, which came out in 1985, and I've rewritten it several times since. So it's come out in 2002, and it's come out as a series of ebooks, and it's in languages all over the world. So it's done very well. But the basic idea, Shari, behind...
Oh no, did it stop? Did we lose you? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay, it lost you for a second. Okay.
The relationship is an asset.
Yes.
Or it could be a liability. There are some people, if you know them and you're connected with them, that hurts you professionally. So we need to look at relationships in a much broader, much more enlightened point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I see all of my connections with other people as potential assets, then I realize that some of them are latent assets right now. I'm not doing anything to cultivate them.
Mm-hmm.
Others are flourishing assets that are paying off big time. So what can I do in each relationship to cause that relationship to progress along the continuum toward a major asset?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my whole training and consulting is about these days, is showing people how to do that with every contact, from the first person that sends in a flyer from a mail promotion to someone that logs in on a website for a free e-zine to someone that you've met with in person and helped them solve a big problem.
Mm-hmm. So when you are consciously making the effort to build that connection with somebody, to move them along that relationship continuum to, hopefully do business with you someday. That is the selling part of relationship selling.
Yeah, and more than that, though, I don't just want their business. I want all their business that I could reasonably serve.
Right. It's not just that transaction.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So what would be the top 3 action steps that you have seen to be most effective on moving that relationship forward, taking it away from just that transactional feel and more towards the relationship? What are some action steps that somebody might be able to take?
Item 1, things that are measured tend to improve.
Okay.
So get a system. Start keeping numbers. Figure out how many people you have some form of connection with, and then group them into the type of connection or the level at which you're connected with them, so that you can see it. It's all laid out there in front of you, and you can say, 83% of the people I'm connected with, I've just had one dealing with. That's not a relationship. That's a transaction. 2, out of 1,000 people, 2, I have a close ongoing relationship where they call me for advice without me having to initiate it. I wonder what I could do to get some of this 1,000 over to the category those 2 are in. And you start identifying. So the first thing is notice more. If you notice more, force yourself to keep record.
It's interesting because I just went through this recently with my e-zine list. I grouped them in A, B's, and C's. So my A's are my advocates, the people that, love what I'm doing, support it, really enjoy the message. The B's are the people who, we keep in touch. I know who they are. They know me, but it's not like that they love what's happening. And then the C's are just those casual acquaintances. And then so they'll get certain mailers at certain times depending on that relationship. So, that's a great step.
I have a thought for you. ABC.
Yeah.
Advocates, buddies, and casual.
Oh, my goodness. Look at that. I love it. I like that. Buddies, though. That's a good... Yeah, I like the buddies especially. Yeah, because that's a good way to look at it.
It's buddies and casual. I was looking for that. When you said ABC, I was thinking, how could we make ABC actually mean something?
Yeah, versus just a letter.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I like that, because an advocate is someone who is taking actions on your behalf.
Yes, exactly.
Without you asking for it.
Exactly. Yep.
Somebody says, there is somebody you've got to meet. You got to meet Shari Alexander.
Right.
Why? Well, here, and then they start bragging about you and reading your credentials.
Right.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the measurement. What would be tip number 2?
Tip number 2 is to constantly and intentionally upserve, not upsell, because the goal of an upsell is to get someone to buy more. To increase the transaction. Well, you can do that with a very effective machine, like a kiosk that says, "Would you like fries with that?"
Right.
That's upselling.
For only $2 more, you could get.
Yeah. But wait, there's more.
Hey.
For only an extra $79.95 shipping and handling, you get the second one free.
What?
what people don't realize, there's a whole lot of profit in that shipping and handling too.
Oh, yeah.
But the second item is upserve. And that means it's a new mentality towards selling. You look at all of your business relationships and you ask, how can I make that better for them? How can I increase, not the transaction, the satisfaction? And it might be something that costs you nothing. Something that's just, oh, I should remember to smile when I say that. So some people don't just naturally smile.
Right.
Or I should have an autoresponder that sends a thank you for doing business with us note, and set it up so I don't even have to do it myself, but when I do it personally, it's even better. And when I send a handwritten note, it's even more powerful.
Right.
So there are levels of doing all this. So just look at upserving as a concept, and that's a term I coined back, I think, in the 1980s or 1990s. But the whole idea is to increase the amount of service that they feel they are getting. The key point here, I was in charge of a big charity event for the Boys and Girls Clubs a year or two ago, and we held a fundraiser at the Reagan Library in the Air Force One Pavilion under the wings of that humongous aircraft. And 409 people showed up, and we netted $287,000 profit that went to the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Wow.
Of course, they don't call it profit because they're a nonprofit, but net after expenses.
Right.
So that was cool. And at the end of that, my team, I had 70 volunteers at various levels. I had maybe 7 that were really committed workers, and then I had a number of people that were temporarily committed to one role or another within that whole event. Well, at the end of the event, I said, your job's not over. And they said, well, yeah, it is. The event's over. And I said, no, you are now on a different committee. Well, how'd that happen? I didn't volunteer for it. No. Wait for it. You are now part of the Gratitude Brigade. And they said, what's a Gratitude Brigade? I said, it's a group of people committed to causing others to feel thanked. They said, oh, we're going to send out thank you notes. I said, no, wait a minute. If I did something for you and you sent me a thank you note, and thank you notes don't do it for me, is our transaction done? And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, if I don't feel thanked, I just got a thank you note and I saw it and threw it away, is your job done? And they said, well, I did my part. Exactly. What's your goal? To do your part or to get the effect? So your goal is the outcome. Your goal is not the process, for heaven's sakes. It's the outcome. Processes are simply steps to achieve an outcome. So if you think of thanking someone as the goal, the goal is to want them to feel thanked, to feel your gratitude. How do you thank them? Well, it depends on them. What makes you feel someone's gratitude? For some people, it's a thank you note. For some, it's a personal phone call. For some, it's simply a, hey, thanks. For some, it's something more elaborate than that. For some, it's being invited to the next VIP event, or I don't know. But there are so many levels of it. I said, what we've got to do to this team of 70 is we've got to find all 409 people who came, even those who were guests of someone else, find a way to connect with them, and thank every one of them 3 different ways within the next month and a half.
Right.
And we did that, and of course we got more referrals, more repeat commitments, more people that stepped up and said, how can I be part of this? If salespeople think like this, if service people think like this, businesses will grow more effectively. I thank my audience after I do a musical performance.
Right.
I'm a singer and songwriter too, and so it's when like last night, I played for 3 hours and 40 minutes at a local nightclub, and I had 50 of my own fans show up in addition to the regular crowd. And today, part of my to-do list is to send 50 thank you messages to let the people know I saw them in the audience, I appreciate their presence, and I want to know what parts of the show they would like more of or less of, or something different next time.
That's great. Jim, I'm getting a little bit of an echo, so you may need that headset here in a second.
Okay.
Do you have it nearby?
I do. Hang on.
Awesome. Oh, technology. How we love it. Brilliant. Yeah, I think that part of the whole idea of relationships and that connection is sometimes people think, oh, it sounds like a lot of work. But really and truly, what, because I think we take relationships for granted more often than not. It's so easy to think, well, I'm thinking of them, surely they're thinking of me. I think in one way I've added for whenever I do multiple trainings for companies. Oh, sorry. Are we rebooting? There we go.
Not yet.
No, I see and hear you. Oh, you can't hear me.
There it is.
There we go. There we go. Okay. Whenever I'm working with a company and I go in multiple times because we're doing different modules, in between each training session, I'll send a private YouTube video to them to recap what we've talked about, to give them expectations for next time, to let them know I'm still here for them anytime they want to talk, and really appreciated this interaction or what this happened. So I think it's very easy to take certain relationships for granted and we forget to say thank you. And I love the idea of saying thank you in 3 different ways because we all accept thanks in different ways. So if you find those different methods, then you're more likely to hit the target, get the result you were talking about.
And taking for granted is seriously a problem. People consider relationships are just kind of a given.
Yeah.
And businesses say, well, we're built on relationships. And I said, really? What's a relationship? They said, well, they look at me like, well, how dare you ask such an obvious, thing.
This is what we're paying you for?
Yeah. And I said, well, what's a relationship? And they say it's a connection with somebody. Is it? Okay. Be more specific. It's when you do business with someone. Really? Well, see, I see that as a transaction. And I've asked audiences of hundreds of people, what's a relationship? And I've never gotten the same answer except general, platitudes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided I need to come up with an answer that's easy for people to remember and popularize it. So I have generated Jim Cathcart's definition of a relationship.
Let's hear it. Yes.
Okay. A relationship is a direct connection between people in which value is exchanged. Okay? So if it's not direct, if it's a bounce off something else, or it's through something else, it's not yet a relationship. It's simply a connection. But when it becomes a direct connection like you and I have right now, then a relationship is present. Okay? And the relationship's quality or strength can be measured by the amount of value that each of us feels we're getting from it. So if you feel like you're really getting tremendous value from this, then this is an asset for you. If I don't feel I'm getting tremendous value from it, then it is not yet an asset for me. So it's important for you and I or you and me to convey a desire to deliver value, but also be willing to listen to what does he or she consider valuable. Because once I know what you value, then I can provide it. Until then, I'm guessing. I'm just poking around in the dark, trying to figure out what the value would be. But let me go back to just a second. Your comment about taking for granted, that is a big deal. That is a monumental problem when it comes to really practicing something like relationship selling well. People assume, since they are giving value, technically, that you consider it value, and if you don't, you should. There's a great concept, right? So if they're giving you value and you don't value it, then you're the problem.
Right.
Well, that's no way to run a business, for heaven's sakes. We're here to make life better for other people and to do it profitably so we can do it 2 times, 5 times, 5 million times. Because if you don't do it profitably, you can't stay in business.
Right.
So profit is the lifeblood of a business, but it's not the purpose of the business.
Right.
Now think of that for a second. Money is to a business as blood is to a body. In a body, there must be an adequate amount of blood. It must be filled with nutrients and oxygen, and it must circulate constantly. If it stops circulating, you're dead. If it doesn't have the right content, not the right type of blood, then you're dead. If it's not in your body, you're dead.
Right.
Okay. Now, but it's not the purpose of your body.
Right.
Blood is not the purpose of life, but it's essential to the existence and continuation. Money is not the purpose of business, but it's essential to the continuation of it. It must circulate. It must take on different forms. In other words, have different types of nutrients, metaphorically. And it's not the purpose of the business. The purpose of the business is to make other people's lives better somehow, and to do so at a profit so you can keep on doing it.
Right. Yeah. If you don't mind, I would love to not switch gears, but drill down a little bit further on. You have a fantastic way of describing motivation, and how some people in our industry hate the term being a motivational speaker. I know you embrace it completely.
Absolutely.
And I wonder if you could just share with everybody your take on motivation and finding motives within people, because I think it's genius.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, thank you. It's so simple. The most profound concepts are. Motivation, if you break it in half, defines itself. Motive, action. A motive without action is simply a wish, right? A latent desire. Action without a motive behind it is just frenetic behavior. Why'd you do that? I don't know. I just did it.
Right.
But if you have a motive that's activated, that's motivation. So people say, well, motivate me. I can't motivate you. I can help you activate your motives, but I can't motivate you because it requires your motives. And they say, well, I've got some people working for me that
they're not motivated. Right.
Yeah. Of course they're motivated. They're motivated to avoid work. They're motivated to tell jokes and have fun instead of working. They're motivated to go on a smoke break or whatever people do when they're not motivated to work, What you need to do is just find the nobler, the more respectable and honorable motives within them and activate those. How you do that? Well, they hire you and me. That's the whole point of what we do, is to help people figure out what is it that the people who live here, work here, buy here, and so forth want on different levels that could become a profitable activity for us as a business. And how do we activate those motives? And that's the whole point.
Right.
When Apple came out with the iPhone, they were trying to activate motives. When they came up with the first computer, just sticking with the Apple analogy, their first computer was not designed to stretch the envelope on technology. It was designed to be the most user-friendly unit in the world. And it was at the time, and still is trying to do that same thing. And that's what gives them distinction in the marketplace. What motive was Walt Disney seeking with the Disney properties and the whole empire of Disney? Happiest place on earth. Wanted to bring more happiness to people. Well, how do you know which people want to be happy? Duh. All people want to be happy. So he chose a big enough goal that, he created a worldwide empire in order to make it a reality. So think about your business, whatever it may be, and ask, what is the motive that people have that my business addresses? And how can I communicate that more effectively and deliver it in a way that generates more satisfaction?
Right.
Ergo, serving.
Right. Yeah, just going back to the taking things for granted, it's so easy to be stuck in our own perspective, our own box of this
it's also natural.
It's natural, exactly. Yeah. This is what provides value to me. This is what I see as valuable. This is what motivates me. This is how I am motivated. So therefore, this must be valuable to you, and this must be how you are also motivated. And I think it's such a big eye-opener when you take a look at it differently, that when you acknowledge and accept that somebody else perceives value differently and is motivated differently. And then you get to play Sherlock Holmes to figure out, look for the clues as to what does motivate that person, what does provide them value. And I think that's the essential part of the observe and connect part of what I talk about, and I know what you share on stage.
And it even applies to love relationships.
Absolutely.
If you think of your partner and how, let's say you love your partner and you want to express your love to your partner. Well, what you tend to do is express your love in the way that makes you feel loved.
Right.
So maybe it's cute little notes, maybe it's preparing a little dish for them and leaving it, maybe it's, I don't know, doing a chore that they would have to do otherwise. I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what makes you feel loved. Well, if that doesn't make them feel loved, they didn't get it.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're going along thinking, does she or he really care for me?
Right.
And you say, well, what makes them feel loved? I don't know. Maybe they feel loved when you're sitting by each other on the couch watching TV and you reach over and play with the hair on the back of their neck. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's when you ask for their opinion even when you don't really need it that much. Mm-hmm. And you genuinely want to listen, not patronizing. We could go on finding examples all day long, but the point is, express it in the way that they want to receive it.
Right.
It's Ford Sakes, a colleague of ours who does internet marketing training and consulting. I was in his leadership summit over in Las Vegas a week ago, and one of the things he talked about was the importance of finding the PMOC of your customers and your colleagues. And I said, excuse me? He said, preferred method of communication.
Yes.
Some people love to communicate by text. Some people never do that. They want it all on email. Mm-hmm. Some don't want email. They want only phone calls. Some want actual snail mail. Some want, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, mm-hmm. All the options today. Mm-hmm. Preferred method of communication.
Yeah, and on my computer, I use Evernote, which is one of my favorite pieces of software, and I have a file for my key players, those people I'm developing those relationships with, of what is their preferred method of communication. And it's always on my iPhone, on my iPad, anytime I might need a reference for that. And I'd also want to go back to the a book that you're sort of alluding to is The 5 Love Languages that I'd love to recommend to everybody because it's a great book, The 5 Love Languages, on how different people experience love and express love. So, well, I am expressing my love for you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today.
It,
again, for everybody, relationshipselling.com. And if you are in the greater Los Angeles area, I highly recommend checking out Jim Cathcart when he's on stage singing and playing his guitar and performing. See, he's got it right there.
GuitarMusicLive.com.
Okay, perfect.
It's got videos and everything on there. GuitarMusicLive.com.
And Jim's joy for what he does is absolutely infectious. So I highly recommend everybody check it out. Thank you so much, Jim. This has been a joy.
Me too.
Have a good one. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.